在是北京时间星期三上午5点11分。Dear passengers, we have just landed at Beijing Capital International Airport, Terminal 3. There is no time difference between Beijing and Singapore. The local time in Beijing is 5:12 a.m. on Wednesday. The outside temperature is 12 degrees Celsius.
互动人携带入行。
Welcome aboard this Air China flight.
机上全程禁止吸烟，包括
Sharp objects, brace for impact until the plane comes to a complete stop.
The passenger cabin is a public space and will be subjected to audio and video collection. Your support and cooperation is greatly appreciated.
Our aircraft is landing in 4 minutes.
尊敬的各位旅客，欢迎来到西安咸阳国际机场。 机舱内的温度15°C、59、80度。Dear passengers, we have just landed Shenyang Airport. Outside temperature is 15 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit.